Hello and welcome to the Internet of Things Made Simple. I'm Larry Bohumer. This is mini episode number 10, and I thank you for joining us. Shout out as always to our new listeners. Welcome aboard. Check out our webpage, theinternetofThingsmadesimple.com, which has some incredible material on IoT. And as always, I kindly ask you to subscribe to this podcast using your favorite podcast service. Today we're going to be talking about, will 5G power a Netflix for games? In a recent announcement, Netflix CEO, also known as Reed Hastings, threw a bit of a curveball when he was asked, what's the biggest threat to your business? There are a few obvious answers. You can think of movies or TV shows. It might be over-the-top services like HBO's streaming service, Hulu, Amazon. It might have even been some of the upcoming ones like Disney. But his answer was online games like Fortnite. If you are asking, what's a Fortnite? You might not be alone. It's a game that's being used by up to 200 million people now, and it's mostly the teenagers, a lot of boys, but some girls as well. So if you want to know more, just ask your kids or your grandkids. So while his goal was to improve the user experience, it does just show you how popular online gaming has become. One of the more interesting ideas that's been floated around for a while is to put up a Netflix-type service for video games. It's not new. As I mentioned, the idea has been around for a while. But there are some issues that have to be overcome. While companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Sony are moving into this area, the distributors of the games do hold a ton of power, and that's power they're not overly excited to give up. From a technical standpoint, video games are much different than movies or TV shows. If you look at a TV show, so take like Orange is the New Black, we're all going to view the same version when we download it. There's no variations. And although Netflix has experimented with some games and programs where you can choose the ending or the outcome, for the most part, it's common material across the board. That's not the case with video games. There's different variables, and those variables often have to be downloaded very quickly to keep the flow of the game. And that download can be quite big. So this brings up a whole new issue that's not there with TV shows or movies. The more important issue, however, might be network latency. Latency, as you may remember, it's the time it takes for a piece of data to make a round trip across the network. The joke that I've used many times is my latency to get ice cream, to go up, get the ice cream and come back to the couch, is about one TV commercial. Even in the fastest home connection, network latency can become an issue. And it's not necessarily because of your connection. It can be because of the fact that you're using Wi-Fi. So depending on how far you are away from your Wi-Fi hotspot and different signals and other issues, what version of Wi-Fi you're using, this can introduce a latency that can cause enough issues for video games. The joke for this is that latency in this case is the difference between life and death in the case of the video game. If there's too much of a delay to have your guy shoot or have your guy move out of the way, you're going to die in the game. And that doesn't go over very well with gamers. If your connection is hardwired to the router, say with Ethernet, it does help. But there's still a bit of an experience factor that's going to hurt some of these online games. However, millions of people are looking to use video games while mobile. And while 4G is great for many things, its latency was way too high to ever be considered. So now when you factor that all in, now 5G becomes very exciting. It's been recently announced that Verizon is in early testing for its new game service. I think it's just being called Verizon Gaming. Not a lot of originality there. The current test involves about 135 games, and it's being distributed through Google Play. The improvement in latency that 5G brings now makes this a realistic possibility. As well, 5G offers some extreme boosting capacity. It can do hundreds of thousands of people in a square mile. So the network speed should remain high, as well as the latency remain low, even if everyone in your neighborhood decides to play games at the same time. So this offers a huge threat that's even bigger to someone like Netflix, but even more so for the traditional wireline companies like Verizon, ironically. If you're going to opt for a 5G connection for gaming, why wouldn't you just cut the cable in general at your house for internet connectivity? This application will be the ultimate showcase for 5G if it works to show off its incredible power, but more importantly, the flexibility. So unlike that DSL at your house, you can just pick up, go to the mall, and start playing your video game on your tablet with the same 5G connection, assuming connectivity is there. It also allows you to do it at school, the cottage, even in the car, depending on the game you're playing. It also opens up gaming to move away from the consoles more, these high-end games. And it already has started to do that, but I think it's going to further expedite that. So it is going to hurt companies like Microsoft with their Xbox and Sony with the PlayStation. And that's going to further enhance 5G's appeal. So now you can really do it anywhere you want and on any device you want. So in short, this is inevitable. 5G is going to power this. Someone's going to take this risk. Whether Verizon goes ahead with their gaming platform, it doesn't matter. Somebody's going to do it. When you factor in 5G's ability to increase speed over time, so it's going to start out gangbusters right off the bat, but I've heard speeds could get 100 times faster and even lower latencies if that's possible. So now it's virtually real time wherever you go. Take that and the fact that 5G's one of the bragging points is better battery life, as I've mentioned in the podcast, and that's going to happen because you're offloading some of the computing to the network. So if you can do that with a video game, offload some of the computing power, you now can play video games much faster and not drain your battery life so much and on more devices. It's just incredible. So as I mentioned in the book, I also think that 5G and later versions are going to have a huge impact on the entire entertainment space and the travel space. Why go to a concert or a sporting event when VR is going to make it so realistic, you're going to feel like you can reach out and touch the person? Why travel to a certain extent if AR is going to make it feel so real life that you're there? You might not want to travel and do all the airports and all the other fun stuff. It's also going to further hurt traditional media companies. And let's face it, TV stations and creators of applications and creators of programs on the media side are getting hit more than ever before. And this is going to have an even further impact on them. It always was people like Netflix who was hurting traditional TV, though. This is going to hurt Netflix just as much. And perhaps Netflix gets into this space. They're a logical person because they have the billing relationships and the experience. Finally, imagine where this goes. Think 6G. I don't even know what the specs are for 6G. I haven't heard any numbers, but if we're talking about almost real life or real time latencies for 5G, 6G is going to be instantaneous. There is going to be no delay. There is going to be no issue playing these games. I can't imagine where it takes AR and VR. It's going to be incredible. Thanks again for listening to this special mini episode. As always, we do love to hear from you. Connect with us on our Facebook page, The Internet of Things Made Simple. You can drop me a note through there. You can also drop me a note on LinkedIn if we're connected, or if we're personally connected, drop me an email or a text. Thanks again. Take care. I'm Larry Bohumor.